So to round out the week, I thought we'd go with Ian Dunt, basically talking about the Brexit story we're not talking about at all. And I sort of agree with what's going on. So, for the next few weeks, it'll be wall-to-wall Tory leadership elections. There are no drugs which could eradicate the horror of what this entails. The candidates are bottom drawer. They are so bottom drawer that it's like someone detached it from the chest, tore up the floorboards, hid it underneath, then banged some nails in it to make sure no one ever found it. And yet they still come. New ones every day. Last night was Mark Harper, the immigration minister, who resigned a few years back after admitting he could not find the documentation for his cleaner. He was praised as a man of integrity. She was arrested at her own daughter's wedding. Apart from that moment of pronounced moral bleakness, he has no accomplishments. There are a few isolated examples of better quality people, but they have no chance of success, very often on the basis that they are quality people. If you have a vaguely functional head on your shoulders or a basic sense of ethical responsibility, you would not want to encourage the notion of a no deal. But if you don't encourage no deal, your chances reduce. The party itself has gone insane, and the lunacy that infects the behaviour and character of those who want to run it. It's going to go on for a long time, and it's going to be grim. It'll be like the spiritual quicksand. The longer you stand watching it, the harder it will be to restore your moral composure. In the worst case scenario, they will work themselves into an arms race on Brexit until any sensible policy after their selection is impossible. In the best case scenario, this is really, and this really would be a victory. They would simply waste all the precious time that we have as we trundle along to the October 31st deadline. But there is something else going on, which will win far less coverage, but could prove more decisive overall. This is the underreported story of the manoeuvres within Remain. The most prominent example right now is the Liberal Democrat leadership election, which will pit Ed Daley against Joe Swanson. A YouGov poll overnight, rather incredibly, showed the party beating all competitors on 24%, next to the 22% for the Brexit Party and 19% for the Conservative and Labour, and 8% for the Greens. These figures are all close to the margin of error. They're probably anonymous, but even if they are not, they may just reflect a temporary sense of momentum coming out of the elections. But they show what the party is capable of, if nothing else, and how much possibility they can be in moments of political volatility. Whoever becomes the party leader will face some big choices. They are both under pressure to rule out a coalition, and both will probably do so, just to instantly put to bed the remaining irritation over the partnership with the Tories. In actual fact, the Liberal Democrats have quite a good story to tell about coalition. The years of Conservative-only rule which followed have been so catastrophic they have served to highlight exactly how important it was to have a moderate party restraining them. But regardless, the view is what is, and it isn't likely to change much. Ruling out a coalition makes it harder to influence or stop the Brexit process through cooperation with Labour, given the state of the two main parties and the current febrile chaos of British politics. The chances are that we're in hung parliament territory for some time to come, and that means other opposing parties having influence over Jeremy Corbyn is the easiest way to imagine Brexit fundamentally changing. That doesn't have to be a coalition, of course. The Tories have managed to just about stay in power using a confidence and supply arrangement with the DUP. Although admittedly at the moment there is no confidence and even less supply. But the next Liberal Democrat leader could find themselves with a decisive role to play, trying to leverage Labour into as remain a friendly position as possible in exchange for their support. The requirement for cooperation goes much deeper than with just the Lib Dems. Whichever way you look at the next few months, a general election or second referendum becomes increasingly likely. The next Prime Minister won't be able to get rid of the backstop because of Brussels, and they won't be able to execute a no deal because of Parliament. So they're likely at some point to reluctantly go to the country in some capacity. What Remainer politicians and campaigners will do then will be essential. Their track record so far has not been good. They failed to work together on the European elections. They initially agreed and then, at the last minute, ruined a cooperation pact for the Peterborough by-election. The arguments for and against this pact, aimed at the precise circumstance, were perfectly sound. What was astonishing was watching it all be conducted so ineptly. The rhetoric had also been poor. Change UK candidates seemingly had no fire in their belly, and the Liberal Democrat European election campaign, although packed with a commendably blunt slogan, was not particularly memorable on its own terms. There are now some tentative signs of improvement, though. Change UK's MPs look much more open to working with the Lib Dems after a bruising election campaign. Plaid Cymru leader Adam Price yesterday called for urgent meetings between Remain parties. Both Lib Dem candidates are making welcome noises. The crucial background story for the next few months will be whether Remain can stitch together a viable cooperative mechanism that can allow them to maintain their individual tribal voices while harnessing the collective muscle of Remain voters, and then put it to work at a general election or a referendum. This is about organisation at all levels, from the grassroots to Parliament, and most importantly, messaging. It will not be covered much by the press. All eyes will be on the Tory leadership process, but it could also prove the most decisive issue in the Brexit saga over the months to come. And he's completely right. The polls that are showing that the Lib Dems will probably be in a position to essentially anoint the next Prime Minister. And Ian Dunt is right on that fact that a lot of people do really forget. We've had the Conservatives governing on their own, but during the coalition, they were the party that was reining them in from going whole hog on austerity. To put it bluntly, if we lived in the universe where Ed Miliband had been able to eat a bacon sandwich properly, then we might not be in this mess. But there you go. And once again, Ian Dunt nailing it politically. So I advise you, if you are really interested, to watch the leadership contest take place and see who wins. I think it will be quite interesting. Both are, relatively good candidates. Liberal Democrat speaking wise. I need to look into them more, definitely. But we'll see who wins. And I can definitely see a massive coalition forming if a second referendum does happen of all the Remain parties. And that coalition is going to have quite some power behind it.